that there are 3 common things that people miss on their resume. If you are currently making these mistakes, howdy partner. I'm always so excited for it to be Thursdays at 2:00. Now the internet knows exactly when we record our podcast. But, I see you and I talk to you every single day, obviously. But I always love these conversations. And our topic today is very of the moment for us. Because why? It was a busy week. How was it a busy week, Audrey?
Resume. This is what I say to people when we're talking about resumes and how in our services it's really important to us that we take as much resume writing off of your plate, because I talk about your gifts. I like to tell people, or we just have the conversation around your career and how it aligns with your gifts or how it can align with your gifts, yada, yada, yada. And then I transition into telling you how God gave me this weird gift of not hating resume writing.
It is such a gift.
I want to use that for the good of his people.
For the glory of God and the good of others. And we all say amen.
Amen.
So, and we also did something that we never do, which is we decided to do a little summer resume professional branding LinkedIn glow up sale. And if you missed that, it's because you're not on our email list and we did not announce it on socials. And it just went out to our email community. So if you want to get on that, by the way, to get on that, what you get on our website is our full 8-step process that you could walk through yourself on how to discern your calling and practically identify what job is aligned with it and then go land that job. A part of that is once you get into our email community, we talk about behind the scenes stuff. And a lot of people took us up on getting their resume and LinkedIn all in order and off of their plate onto yours and back in beautiful fashion. That makes them super proud to go applying to jobs. And that means that when I was like, Audrey, what should we talk about this week? You're like, well, all I've been doing is looking at resumes. And we have 3 things that we already knew this was going to happen because we've been seeing it forever, but it just got affirmed that there are 3 common things that people miss on their resume. I would dare say let's call it 3 mistakes that we commonly see and what you could do about them. If you are currently making these mistakes, oh my gosh, you're in good company. I've totally done all of these before. And so there's no shame, but we are very excited to help you get all spiffed up. So what are the 3 mistakes? And kick us off.
Okay, well, let's start with the first one, which is something that's very tempting. And we all, if you haven't already done it, we've all at least thought about doing it. And that is creating an aesthetically pleasing resume in Canva. Don't get me wrong, your resume should be, aligned.
Pleasing.
It should look good. But creating one in Canva is actually a mistake that really can hurt you. So let's talk a little bit more about why, because I see Canva resumes all the time. I would say probably maybe even more than 50% of the resumes that get sent my way are Canva resumes. And why that's hurtful is it's actually not when you upload your resume to an application, it's going through an ATS, which you've probably heard that acronym, but what it stands for is an applicant tracking system. I always just call it the robot.
We like to brand everything around here.
So the robot is scanning your resume, and if it's not in a really plain format, it's likely missing a ton of the content that you have on your resume. It needs to be in, it's advanced technology, but it's not that advanced that it's able to really scan every resume perfectly. So you kind of have
especially 2 columns. Like a lot of times on Canva resumes, there's a lot of design elements, color contrasts, and 2-column formats. And ATSs are much more successful at picking up a regular designed in a Word doc or a Google Doc single column format. So that's what I've seen. But Audrey, also, I am squirming in my seat so hard as you talk about this Because at the beginning of my career coaching days, I totally thought that like prettier was better. And there are some career experts that vibe hardcore with the opposite of what we're going to say. Because another one of our things is making your resume too short. Some would definitely stand by an executive summary, very, very summarized kind of format. And others would say it doesn't matter if it's ugly, it doesn't matter if it's super long. You actually are favored by keyword repeating in the applicant tracking system. So there's a variety of opinions, and you will find people to support them all. And at one time, I was one of those people that supported Canva templates, and I'm sorry.
It's okay. And there are definitely cases where it could work. If you are talking to someone relationally and you want to send over a resume, that's fine to send over a pretty one. I would make sure um, keep your branding as consistent as possible. Don't have a ton of different resumes that you're sending to the same company. But especially if you're in a design world as well. I mean, you're probably submitting a portfolio and you're branding that as well. But um, this isn't, of course, a black and white scenario. But if you are out there applying to a lot of jobs, uploading your resume, so the ATS, the interaction that you have with the ATS, if you are thinking, oh, I haven't really interacted with that before. Yes, you have. It's the very annoying step of the application process where you upload your resume and then you have to copy and paste all the information again. So
So crazy.
I'm hearing a lot of like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you're
that's
listening
what
to
it
that,
is. Yeah.
that part. So a
And
good
you were
rule.
okay, sorry.
I was just gonna say a good rule of thumb when trying to understand if you have a good format or not is if you're uploading this your resume to the ATS and it's all wonky every time you upload it and super wonky, like it's not going to upload perfectly, but sometimes it'll autofill when you upload it, and if it's autofilling really really terribly every time, that can be a sign that your format might not be widely accepted by ATS system ATS. I don't want to be redundant. ATS system, the robot. So, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that you were really wise to bring up some exceptions to the Canva template rule.
Cool.
And creative industries, you could say they're one of them, but oftentimes I wouldn't want somebody to say, oh, I'm going into a marketing role. That's kind of creative. I'm going
Mhm.
to, like, generally, I would say if you are applying through LinkedIn, a lot of those companies are using some form of an ATS. It's not just an email to the recruiter with an attachment. I
Mhm.
really would always favor just a plain format, like docs. It can be turned into a PDF, but I recommend using Google Doc or Word for
Mhm.
the development of it. And then the exceptions, though, that I do stand by is I have helped clients who are only using their resume as a direct pitching to small business owners, like trying to get a job just through their network, or this is going to the owner of a very small business in my area, and this isn't a formal application process. I just want to attach something that looks really clean, and this person isn't they weren't signing up in the first place to read a very long single space like 8-point font doc. Then I would say that the more summarized, heavy hitting, beautifully designed Canva executive summary kind of format could work really well. And I have used that in the past, but most people are not choosing to apply to jobs that way.
Mhm. And if you are thinking about having a couple different versions of your resume, which we always recommend because there's not a one size fits all with resume. I would suggest to frame it in your mind in the 80-20 rule. So have a general resume that you're applying to about 80% of these jobs with. And then there's 20% of jobs that you're looking at that are going to take a lot more work to apply to because you might be like really wanting that job and wanting to focus on your application more and tailoring your resume more and writing the cover letter and doing all of the things, the extra work there. So I would keep that to about 20% of your applications and then have a really high quantity for the other 80%. So you're making sure you're hitting as many applications as possible.
Mm-hmm. Good point on that. By the way, Teal HQ is a tool that some clients have enjoyed in the past as an aggregator of all of like a bank of bullet points that you could use from your experience in helping you compare them and specialize or create a tailored resume per job descriptions. So, Teal HQ, maybe check that out.
Yes.
What is our next tip?
Our
Mistake,
next
rather.
Oh, good point. Um, Next mistake is always believing you need to keep your resume to one page, which is
Yeah.
probably blowing somebody's mind out there because you've heard over and over again, one page resume. That's it. Any other page is going to get cut off. It's the end of the world if you do 2 pages. And there are rules, or not rules, some guidelines of when to use 2 pages, when to do one page, which we'll get into. Just know that 2 page resumes are definitely accepted.
They're definitely accepted, especially that rule of thumb that you're mentioning. I'll go ahead and share it. I've done a lot of research on this, talked to a lot of people. Generally speaking, if you have less than 5 years of professional experience and have been at, during that time, 1 to 2 companies, it's most likely reasonable to keep it to one page. That could go up to 7 years. Common advice is 5 to 7 years. See if it makes sense. Like, can you keep it to one page without cutting too much out? But the general rule here is you definitely don't want to leave out anything that is a metric backed accomplishment showing a responsibility that you held and you turned around a result while holding that responsibility that is relevant to the new job that you want. And the person at the company that you want to work for really cares to see that you did that. If you just checked all those boxes, please do not leave that bullet point off your resume on account of just fitting to one page. And don't get too obnoxious with making the font far too small just in favor of one page. So, especially if you get past that 5 to 7 years of experience, this is the territory where you're most likely leaving things, important things out if you are still sticking to one page. So it's probably time to start creeping onto that second page, and that's totally fine. Very senior level professionals often have quite long resumes, and that is okay. The whole point here is every job that you're in, make sure that you have something to show for it, that you cared about how you were contributing to the flourishing of that company through their bottom line, and translate what you did to tell the story of how you advanced the company, your role, your team, your customers through what you were responsible for. And if you have that mindset, you'll kind of naturally have a bit easier of a time redrafting your resume every time you're ready to update it and apply for a new role, because you aren't making stuff up out of thin air. You've already had the mindset of, I'm a very service oriented, contributing professional. I'm not just warming a seat, and I have some stuff to show for it.
Mm-hmm. And as you're writing those bullet points, if you want some guidelines on how many bullet points to include, we recommend and research recommends 3 to 5 bullet points per experience. But if you've been in one experience for a while and you have a lot to share, you can go up as far as 8. But really reserve that for solid bullet points. You don't need the one that just kind of describes generally the role. Cut it.
Or like, led weekly team meeting. Does that mean you sent out the Zoom link or what? Like, it's led weekly team meeting isn't as impactful as project managed like 8 engineers, like the progress of those 8 engineers. So see if you could turn that around. And then also, when you say experience, just to be specific, that's role. So under your experience section, you could have one company that you've had 3 roles at, being promoted each time. I would say 3 to 5 bullets under each role. If the last one was like a really long time ago and it was certainly your junior role, it's fine if you have 2 bullet points if it was a long time ago. But you could do 3 to 5 per role at the company.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree on that?
Yes. Yes, I would. And good clarification there.
Sweet. Yeah, because you definitely don't have to just like have 5 bullet points for your entire 7 years at one company. That would be not good. So
Yeah.
yeah. Anything else to say on this point?
I don't think so. I think we're ready for our last point. Do you want to share the last point? Do you remember what it is?
I know I will, but I got a little stage fright just then. I'm gonna need you to set it so I can spike it.
Yes, I wanted you to share because you actually, this is your IP, I
Oh,
believe. Yes. The
I
title.
don't know if it is. There,
Oh.
but sure, all right. I know what you're talking about now. So the a big mistake that we see people make, and I don't want to call this a huge mistake because plenty of people get great jobs without having this on your resume. But in our world, a lot of the people that we're helping are trying to pivot careers. So I would say it's a mistake for you to not have this advantage on your resume and you're missing a big opportunity. So I'm not saying you're a loser if you don't have this because a lot of people don't and it's okay, but we just think it could get you so much farther if you did. What I'm talking about is at the very top of your resume, you know where in the past, hopefully not in the present, people put an objective statement that said my objective is to get, I think I did this in college, which cringe, but my career center wrote off on it, like signed off, like this is a good idea. And I was like, oh my Lord. Anyway, my objective is to land a summer internship within management consulting. If you're applying to the job, obviously they already know that your objective is to get that job. So everybody knows don't do that. But what we would recommend is actually great to put in that space instead is a summary of qualifications statement and what that looks like. And actually, I'm not going to bury the lead. Why we recommend this is it's another keyword and tailoring opportunity that's a slam dunk to put the role title that you're applying for, like the exact role title that you're applying for, at the top of your resume without having had to, it's not going to go in your experience section if you're a pivoter and you haven't held that role before, but you still want a fighting chance at the recruiter looking at it for 5 seconds and registering your resume as relevant. So at the top, you say, insert role title in bold, like you have your name, title, contact information. Under that, like financial analyst, semicolon, summary of qualifications. So you're being truthful. You're not saying, financial analyst, here's 3 bullet points of the time that I held that role. You probably have not had an opportunity to do that. So instead, under that heading, which is above your experience section, you are putting 1 to 3 sentences, probably 2. It's rare that unless they're short, it would have to be like 3 short sentences, I think, where you summarize your qualifications for that financial analyst role or whatever it is. And you do that by saying exactly like, here's how would you like, I know that you've been very fresh on writing a lot of summary of qualification statements. Can you give an example of what you put in those 1 to 3 sentences?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I would recommend doing it last, kind of like when you would title an essay after you wrote it in school. You want to come back to your summary as after you're editing your resume and everything. Go to the job description or go to the collection of job descriptions you're basing your general resume off of. And honestly, if you have them printed out or just online, highlight or circle the main qualities in that or responsibilities that you have from those job descriptions and what you feel really confident talking about, you can do and are really important, and they show up a lot in those two. This is where you want to shine on the qualifications and the responsibilities, and include those in the summary. So it's you know
It's a keyword loaded like
yes,
micro cover letter.
yeah, like professional with X number of years experience doing, and then just list all of them. And be a little bit more
Well, that's where you do
creative.
like hybrid. So you don't say X
Mhm.
number of years experience as a financial analyst. You say in client services. If you
Mhm.
could kind of start sliding your way into it a little bit and
Mhm.
translate your past experience. And this is where having a second opinion and a career coach makes all the difference because honestly, it's really hard to write this summary for yourself when you're like, but I have not
No
done this
experience.
exact role, and this is so like scary.
Yes. Yeah, I was just having a conversation. I have these conversations all the time, especially particularly with career pivoters. Like, oh, I really want to do this, but I don't have any experience doing it. Example recently, oh, I really want to manage people, but I have no experience doing it. This woman is the director of a clinic. Like, girl,
Good.
girlfriend, you've got plenty of management experience. We have to dive into it deeper to pull out like exactly what you were doing and how to translate that. But exactly what you're saying, having that other perspective to shine a light on the blind spots we hold about ourselves, especially when you're too in your head about it and you've been staring at your resume for 3 hours and you hate resume writing.
Yeah, that happens way more often than I would have
Mm-hmm.
thought. Before getting into career coaching, I just kind of thought that we could all, like, if we sat down and thought about it hard enough, like, really see what we're good at. But I think that's more like, you have the gift of enjoying helping somebody
Mm-hmm.
have a confidence building experience by looking at their resume in the face and like
Yeah.
optimizing it. You like optimizing it and retelling people's career stories. I think for me, my obvious blind spot was like, oh, if people sat there long enough, they could really figure out how they're a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, I find that so many people are hidden superstars and they don't know it, or they've like kind of maybe they haven't always been a top performer, but they could be if they focused on this one thing that they actually should be encouraged in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, having that second opinion, it's just
Yeah.
crazy how often like we're not actually having to wordsmith the heck out of that summary of qualifications statement. It's that you really do have stuff to add to this role. You're just not seeing it. Like how crazy a director says that she doesn't have management
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. And that's what the really exciting part about resume editing, because I know people, so many people are out there thinking that resume editing is the worst. And I just want to shine a light on the side of it where you are pulling together your overall professional journey and presenting it in a way that makes sense for somebody to read it. And you get to share that really confidently after putting together your resume and saying, this is my story. I am proud of it. And I am proud of how it's going to serve you. And having that confidence boost and that shift in perspective, you won't be walking into interviews. You will be shredding into interviews. You will
Strutting,
be
if you will.
ready to share your story, because I think a lot of people get really tripped up sharing their story because they haven't actually sat down to figure out what their story is. They've just experienced it and they haven't analyzed it or
Mm.
really reflected on it, would be a better way to say that, in order to be able to share it from kind of an outside perspective, but you're the one sharing it.
Wait, is this the fourth mistake? Not being the creator of your story and instead just being like, oh, the past is locked. Like,
Mm-hmm.
here's the boring way to tell, I guess, the responsibilities that were on my last job description. That's probably not all that you did. You probably, like, jobs are very rarely static. So you probably have had a few opportunities that you've taken to step up. And you should tell it like a hero's journey.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I would definitely say that's the last mistake.
Yeah, I think so too. And oh, nope, my last thought.
That's not fine.
My last brain cell.
Goodbye.
Maybe that's the sign to um, finish this up. But I do want to
I guess so.
say we have plenty of resume tips in our 1 hour workshop on our website, and also the PDF document that walks you through
Yes.
the 8-step process. There are resume tips in there that we didn't even share in this podcast.
Thank you so much for reminding me of that because I remember when we were working hard in December to put that together.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, we put so many things in there that I kind of forgot about. So truly, it's not one of those like fake, our whole process. No, it's the whole process. I
Mhm.
mean, there's like a bunch of sub points that we can't take like 20 hours to describe, but
Yeah.
you can get the gist. So, but yeah, I hope that everyone goes and enjoys that. And if they have any follow up questions, let us know. We're happy to help you through these things. I was just chatting with
Mhm.
the most lovely gal, Lindsay, on LinkedIn today. Um, it was just so cool. I don't think that she needs career coaching. She just needed some encouragement that
Um,
actually she's like has such a beautiful heart and really is um, doing all that she can to make her career meaningful right now as a young mom. And I just loved conversations like that. So please reach out if y'all need anything. And we are so happy to be in your corner.
yeah. And one more thing that came to mind when I'm reflecting on my past and how I say I have this gift of not hating resume writing. Um, and maybe I even like it would be the positive way to say it. I think back to in my college, in school at my university, I was editing all of my friends' resumes, and I was editing resumes for my sorority
Totally.
just because I enjoyed it. So that's the kind of stuff that we get to talk about in career coaching calls. We get to look at your past and see these things that like seemed like just what you did in the moment, but how it actually contributes to your overall professional journey.
I love those
Mhm.
moments. Those are always my absolute favorite on calls
Mhm.
where it's like, wait, I'm not random. I make sense. This is awesome.
So true. So true. Yeah. So come have one of those calls with me this week.
That's right. Thecalledcareer.com. Thanks for joining this latest episode of Answer the Call. We'll see you next week with another fun topic. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. To get an even more meaningful head start into your calling, head to thecalledcareer.com, where my fellow career coach Audrey and I have created a whole suite of free resources and tools to help you get clear and get a job today. For those who are definitely ready to land a job or start a business in the next 6 to 12 months, we're here to help you biblically and practically discern your calling through coaching, reflection, and deep market research. Identify the job that's aligned with it, even if you currently have no idea what you want. Rebrand your resume and LinkedIn to translate your background to appeal to your future boss. P.S. We take this off your plate and do this for you. Also, we'll teach you how to land referrals and get attention from leadership through networking. Again, if that makes you nervous, we have these emails and LinkedIn messages literally written for you so you don't have to sweat. We're also here to give you unlimited interview practice so you're prepared to address every elephant in the room and knock selling yourself out of the park. Then we'll round out with helping you negotiate your salary so you land thousands more. Just so you know, recent clients have gotten $8,000 to $50,000 salary increases, even though they were totally non-traditional candidates. That's because we specialize in helping non-traditional career pivoters land jobs they're ecstatic to serve in. It takes work, but we're here to see you through until the end, when we're celebrating that day that you send me an email in all caps and you say, Kelsey, I got the job. Then you could be on the podcast. But I'll be here until then, keeping you accountable and encouraged by meeting with you literally until you land the job you want, even if that's up to 6 months from now within our program. Apply to join at thecalledcareer.com, and I'll see you next week here at Answer the Call. Bye for now.